Good morning and welcome to the live stream from day 2 at Nordic Business Forum 2016 in Helsinki. In 15 minutes, this feed is going to switch over to the main stage where we have Jessica Jackley. We'll be talking about new business thinking. And of course, she will be followed by a bunch of other awesome speakers like Tiger Mom Amy Chua and skateboarding legend Tony Hawk. And of course, this man. Good morning, Seth Godin.
Good morning. I can't wait to see Jessica. She's awesome.
Oh, how are you this morning?
I'm fabulous. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. You've just had a Q&A session with the VIPs. Did you get any good questions? Finns aren't that awesome at asking questions, especially in the morning.
Why are Finns so bad at asking questions?
I think it's because we're shy and we're afraid we're going to ask something stupid, or that other people are going to think we're asking something
And what
stupid.
happens if you ask something stupid?
I think it's a really good choice to ask stupid questions, because a lot of the times it's going to turn out everybody else is wondering the same thing.
Yeah, most people have no idea what a stupid question is. They just throw out all the good questions thinking they're stupid. We need more stupid questions.
Cool. So Seth Godin is a best-selling author of 18 books, including Tribes and Purple Cow. He's an entrepreneur, a marketer, and your blog is the most popular marketing blog in the world, actually. So your book, Purple Cow, is about how you need to strive to make your product or company remarkable. Can you explain the reasoning behind Purple Cow, please?
Well, what's remarkable mean? It only means one thing: worth making a remark about. If people choose to talk about what you do, they talk about it. If they talk about it, other people hear about it, not through advertising, not through promotion, but because the product itself caused a conversation. That solves all your problems. That if we think about all the brands, every one that has been built since the birth of MTV, all of them were built because it was remarkable and people talked about it, not because they had better advertising.
Do you have any good examples of brands that are causing a conversation and that's how they became a Purple Cow?
Well, I can think of a bunch off the top of my head. One is something like Red Bull. Red Bull is a multi-billion-dollar worldwide brand. Coca-Cola was built on advertising. Red Bull was built on people in bars telling other people in bars what they were drinking. Or consider Little Mismatch. I'm wearing their socks right now. They make socks for 12-year-old girls that don't match. You get 3 socks for $10, not 2. Why is that? Because when you go to school, you can say to your friends, want to see my socks? And so the word spreads and the word spreads. Last year, they did $45 million in sales of socks that don't match.
It seems, though, that the market decides what's remarkable, not the company. So,
Bingo.
So how does the company know what's worth, like, what is worth the risk? Like, what way do you take?
This is the only hard part. Making socks isn't hard. Putting on a TV network isn't hard. Writing software isn't hard. What's hard is having enough cultural sensitivity to guess. And what's hard is having the guts to put something in the world that people will care about. Those are the hard parts. That's why asking stupid questions is important, because the only chance we have going forward is not to get Six Sigma perfect. The only chance going forward is to figure out what people will talk about. This was Nokia's only problem. They knew how to make a smartphone. They had already made a smartphone. They just didn't get the joke. They didn't understand that the purpose of the phone was to connect, not that the purpose of the phone was to make a phone call.
So what concrete tools can we use, not as leaders and managers, just as like individuals? How can we become more like that, more braver, I guess?
It begins with announcing to yourself that this is important. Because there are lots of things we do that are important that aren't fun at first. If you decide to run a marathon, it's not fun for a long time. Everyone who runs a marathon gets tired, but no one says, how do I run a marathon without getting tired? What we do is we figure out where to put the tired. That's how you win. That's how you finish, right? Well, the same thing's true with this sort of innovation. You can't do it without being afraid. That's not the goal. The goal is, where do you put the fear? You put the fear over here in a little basket, and then you do the work.
We actually have a question from our live stream event in St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg, Russia?
Yeah, St. Petersburg,
so
Russia.
Cool.
What are the most important moments in your life which determine your success in marketing?
The turning point was when I was 17, and I became the canoeing instructor at a summer camp in Canada. I had 70 wooden canoes, 17 feet long each, and I needed to teach kids how to do tricks and pilot a boat all by themselves, which is a scary thing to do when you're 10. And
Or
no,
ever.
or ever. And no one could be forced to go. It was voluntary. So what I had to figure out how to do was get kids who could go sailing or windsurfing instead to come to spend time with me. And I had to discover in real time, making sales calls, looking people in the eye, telling a story, putting on a show, how to get a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old to do this instead of that. And what I discovered is it wasn't about proving I was right. It was about seeing people for who they were. It was about giving them a chance to become who they wanted to become. And that's what I got hooked on, and I've been doing it for the last 40 years.
So we need to take risks and not worry about criticism. And
No, that's not true.
no?
It's not a risk. You know what's risky? Not asking a stupid question is risky. This is the opposite of that. This is brave and smart and the best path, not the risky one.
A lot of topics today will be touching on leadership. So let's talk about that a little. First, the age-old question. You can train to be a manager, but can you really learn to be a leader ever?
Oh, this is super important. Of course. Leaders aren't born. You know who's born? Babies. Babies. They don't speak. They don't know Finnish. They don't know English. They have trouble not pooping in their diaper. Babies are not born leaders. We become born leaders. And you know how we do it? Through example. That is how you lead. Not by reading a book, not by taking a course, but by leading. That when we do something, people see us doing it. If we are willing to do our work in public in front of other people, and we do it in a way that's worth following, you know what will happen? People will follow us. So there is no secret, there is no manual. Merely act the way you want others to act. Do it consistently, even when you think no one is looking, and then do it again.
Well, this is an awesome segue to your book, Tribes, which really is about leading, not necessarily leading a company, but just leading your own tribe. Can you talk about tribes a little bit?
Well, tribes are groups of people who are connected by a culture, by a leader, by a way of being. So if I go to London, I can see the skinhead tribe, or I can see the punk tribe, or I can see the tourist tribe. All tourists around Buckingham Palace look the same, right? Well, was there a manual? Was there a memo? How is it that they all look the same? It goes down to one simple sentence. People like us do things like this. Who gets to decide that? You do. That's what leadership is. Follow me. What leadership is, oh, I see you, and I see you, and I see you. Leadership is people like us do things like this.
How do I collect my tribe then? How can I get my word out?
You can't collect and you can't get your word out. You can show up and they can find you. You can give them a story to tell their friends. They can get the word out if they choose. You don't get to get the word out anymore.
How do I get into the arenas where people are going to see me or my products?
Well, so there's someone right over there. She can talk to the person sitting next to her, but she's not. And there's someone outside of this building, and they can do something generous for someone else, but they're not. That if we are generously showing up, if we are generously offering our best self, if we are generously making connections that lead to value, you know what happens? People ask us to do it again.
So there's a certain mindset people need in order to be successful as they possibly can. Help me out here, what is it?
Well, I think the mindset comes down to a 4-letter word that my dad taught me, which is care. That was the motto for his company. And if you care more tomorrow than you care today, sooner or later you'll care enough. And people who care enough can make a difference.
So then pretend you're the CEO or a manager of a bunch of people. How can you communicate this well enough for it to actually become something very important? Like how can you change their minds to become caring people?
Yeah, I don't know how to change anybody's mind. I think what I know how to do is if I know what's on your mind, I might be able to show you with some light a path to get what you wanted all along. Do you know what I think people want? I think they want to be respected. I think they want to feel safe. I think they want to make a positive difference. I think they want to not let other people down. If you can create an environment where they can keep doing those things in a way that moves things forward, they will. That people, given the chance to matter, will choose to matter.
What's the first thing you do in the morning?
It's not check my email, and I'm thrilled to tell you that. My late teacher, Zig Ziglar, taught me that tomorrow's a new day whether you want it to be or not. So you might as well leap out of bed, clap your hands, put a smile on your face and say, I get to do this today, not I have to do this today. And every time I do that, I'm glad I did.
I actually have a young man here who's a big fan of yours. Apparently you have fans. Did you know?
Isn't that so weird?
It's like groupies. I know, it's great. And he was saying, so what is the first thing? If he has a new company, a new e-commerce company, what is the first thing he has to do?
I think that empathy is at the heart of all successful new ventures. I know what you need. You need funding, and you need more employees, and you need investors, and you think you need a mentor, and you need this, and you need that. What do I need, right? What would make me miss you if you were gone? What is it that you're going to do that I can't wait for you to do it? If you can't do those things, it's because you're not spending enough time with other people. You're spending too much time talking and not enough time listening. But if you can truly offer me that, the rest of the business gets a lot easier.
Well, what about on a bigger scale? Say you're number 2 in your industry and you're always lagging behind number 1. What are those like changes you need to make in either your running of the business or in your mentality to
Well,
go forward?
I want to start by challenging the mentality. If you're number 2 in your business, you're not number 2 to any of your customers. You're number 1 to all of your customers. That's why they picked you. So maybe the job isn't to change enough to beat the other guy. Maybe the only challenge is to be even more embraced by the people you've got. That maybe understanding that you don't have to win somebody else's ranking, but merely be truly number 1 to the people who pick you, that usually is enough to take care of your problem.
One last question. What was the best question you got in the Q&A session this morning?
You know, I understand that there's a little reticence here in Finland about asking a question. And I'm so grateful that the people who stood up and asked a question figured out how to get over their fake fear of asking questions. Every single one of them was thoughtful and non-selfish in the fact that everybody else in the room learned something from them.
Great. Thank you so much, Seth Godin.
Pleasure. Thanks for being here.
We're going to switch over to the main stage now, where we're waiting to hear Jessica Jackley
Go,
first,
Jessica!
who also has fans, and later on some more speakers, so stay tuned.